This is my Philosophers mini project, Plato Decoding Beauty. This first image is the birth of Venus. This image represents purity. In the middle, we can see the goddess of love being born out of the sea. This is a representation of purity because being born is one of the most pure things an organism can go through and come out of. She covers herself quite modestly, but she's also unashamed of being seen in her natural nude body around other people because there's nothing inherently sexual about her body because she's just been born. She's completely innocent. She's being carried in by a giant, pearly, immaculate white shell, or scallop shell, and it's completely brand new looking. It has no imperfections, there's no discolorations, no cracks or algae. It's completely pure, just as she is. And then on the right of the goddess is the whore of spring, who's bringing over a flower blanket. This blanket represents the spring breeze, and spring is pure because that's when a lot of mating happens, and that's when all of the babies start happening, and it's the birthing season. And on the left of her is the air god and deity, who are blowing her in from sea onto the land. And blowing around her is roses, and we can tell that it's spring because roses bloom in the spring, so they wouldn't have their petals if it wasn't. The next image is ashes. This painting represents tension. The man in the corner, it seems to be from his point of view. The background of the image is very dark, foresty, and it seems to symbolize kind of feeling isolated, like there's no one else besides them. And he's curled up in the corner like he's ashamed or guilty or responsible of something. And his skin is blue, which is typically a representation of feeling sad, so maybe he's upset about something that he did to hurt this woman. The woman in the painting is the only bright part of this painting, and the surrounding area around her is the only bright part, and it's very different. It's a complete opposite of the man who was wearing black. And it really shows that there's two sides of a story to it, and the tension between them is because neither are wanting to listen to each other's side of the story. They just keep wanting the other to listen to them. The woman is pulling her hair out like she's stressed or super angry, but her face also looks very hurt and sad, like he did something that upset her but also deeply hurt her and betrayed her trust, and that would cause a lot of tension in a relationship. When you can see the woman's hair wrapping around and connecting to the man's head, and this represents the connection of the physical connection of their relationship that is slowly dwindling and burning up because she has red hair, and the constant stress of this relationship just is breaking that tie. As we can see, there's only a few strands that are left, but a few that are hanging down that were once hanging on to him. The next image we have is raising the flag on Iwo Jima. This represents patriotism. The American flag is a symbol of America. Many pledge allegiance to their country with this flag. The 6 Marines here are raising the American flag out of the rubble. This shows their respect for their country through their flag, or through their respect of the flag. The 6 Marines wearing uniforms are helping each other raise the flag. This shows an alliance with other citizens who share their love for their country, and that's being very patriotic. And the flag is almost completely untouched, but completely surrounded by rubble and broken debris and just nothing stuck together. And somehow it was able to make it out almost completely untouched. And this is a symbol of the strength, America's strength and its power. The back Marine is reaching out to help, to grab onto the flagpole to help his fellow mates to get the flag up. And this shows that he has so much respect that even though he can't reach it, he's still trying to help every little bit that he can. He wants to be involved and a part of it. He wants to help his neighbors and his country. I couldn't find the title for this one, but this image represents self-doubt. The man's face looks like he's in pain, even though all he has to do is simply stop stepping on himself and he wouldn't be in pain anymore. But at the same time, his face also looks quite angry as he's looking down on the smaller version of himself, the smaller, weaker version of himself with so much hatred, like, why aren't you stronger? I could smush you if I wanted to. But then he's not thinking about the other boot on his back. There's many copies of himself, obviously, stepping on himself, and this represents the mental weight of his self-doubt just being crushed under his own boot. Even though it's himself, he can stop that. It's no one else. The smallest man, who represents the actual man as a person, is having the most weight put on his back from all of the larger hymns, which represent the self-doubt, and he can't escape from them because there's so much pressure, there's so much weight on his back holding him down. And even though he can't escape, he's trying to, and he's trying to walk up that hill to get away from them, but he's struggling because of all of the weight. And the biggest man representing the biggest man on top, who represents self-doubt, is further down the hill, because the bigger the stack goes, the harder it is for the smallest man to make it up the hill, and the bigger man could possibly even be pulling him back downwards down the hill and reversing his success. This image represents powerlessness. The giant hand is barely holding onto this man, but he's hanging there, not moving. His arms are limp to his side, his legs are down, he's hanging his head. He's just hanging there. He's not even attempting to try and get away, even though if he could simply just struggle a little bit, he'd be able to pop free. But he won't, because the hand is so big and menacing, and just he doesn't think that he can get out himself. He looks down like he's given up and doesn't really care about the giant scary hand holding him up anymore. Like, he doesn't have any power to do anything about it, and so he just gives up and doesn't bother anymore. And the drawing is very scribbly, the coloring in of the man and part of the hand that's been touching the man. And I feel like the artist did that to show that the man really didn't feel like he had any control, like as if they weren't holding well control over the pen while they were coloring. I think it represents the lack of control that he feels that he has in this situation. And it's also quite interesting because if we look towards the wrist of the hand, it's pretty pristine and straight and clean and controlled. Like, the hand is a big part that's been controlling him this whole time. And the black just feels so overwhelming, and seems like he just feels so overwhelmed with being out of control and having no power to fight back.